Hello, we are back with what episode number is this again? My bad. 51
Terrible host.
of the Slot One
Garbage
Super
host.
Podcast. We're back, guys. Woohoo! Awesome. No one's late. We're all here. It's all awesome. And by all of us, of course, that is me, your own favorite, Minato Slash. We have the Masked Ningen, of course, my lovely, lovely co-host. And then we also have our guest for this week, TOONRAMI.
Hello.
Hello.
How's
This
it going?
celebration, am I right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that and more. So again, thank you to everyone who's showing up and popping in. We appreciate all of you. And just to start off, if you want to help support the podcast, all questions, comments, and shout outs are going to be read from any donations and super chat comments at the end of the show. Again, not a requirement, but we appreciate you all if you do choose to help support us. Very, very nice. All right, so let's just hop right into Worldwide. And I think, talking about the content that came out this week as well ties into this general overarching title of this episode, which is, of course, is it a letdown, right? Worldwide celebration. A lot of people are very upset at how the worldwide celebration is going. And, Ningen, you should let me know, what are you thinking about people's reactions to this? Like, what are you exactly seeing online in terms of what people are saying as well?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people disappointed with the overall amount of content and everything that we've gotten so far. It's one of those things, I always take those kind of comments at first with a pinch of salt because I feel like it happens every single time. Like, we had comments during the anniversary about it being slow, and I mean, there were some interesting decisions made with like the slight differences in pacing and stuff like that, but in terms of the actual amount of content, obviously it matched up the same. When it comes to the worldwide, I know there's a bunch of stuff that kind of doesn't show. Like, if you go on the wiki and look at the timeline, it shows you only the things like the new units and then like new events that came out. It doesn't show you like missions being added to existing events, like on that main timeline. And that's one of the big things I've seen a lot of people say, is that apparently there was a lot of missions and stuff added last year, which we haven't really gotten this year. Because in terms of a one-for-one exchange, we've got roughly the same amount of content. The thing that is a real big difference, which of course we'll get onto the unit itself in a little bit, is the main EZA of part 1. Obviously we got Int Broly, but just Broly on his own. Whereas in that slot for last year's Worldwide, we got 4 EZAs in that spot, because it was the AGL Zamasu Tech Trunks and both their banner units at the same time, the Gowasu and Zamasu, and then Int Mai. So that definitely makes it feel like significantly less, right? Like 1 EZA compared to 4. And of course, it doesn't help that a lot of people aren't happy with Broly, but like I say, we'll talk about him in more detail in a little bit. But yeah, I think it's an age-old problem that we talked about many times before that Dokkan apparently continues to do, which is very annoying when it comes to these big celebrations, where the pacing is just really weird. Like, they dropped Broly's EZA on Tuesday, and nothing else has happened since then. I think we had the Battlefield reset today, but that's not, I wouldn't necessarily call that, like, new content. And as we don't even know when the next thing is coming out, because as far as the news goes up to in-game, the Int Broly is like the latest thing that is mentioned. So very strange how they choose to pace some of the content rather than spreading things out over multiple days. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people not particularly happy with the celebration overall. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
No, yeah, I would say that I'm thinking that people are overrating how much worse it is compared to last year a little bit. So if we take a look at everything that was in the celebration info, or in terms of, let's say, the countdown plus part 1, right? I know in part 1 specifically this year, if you look at it, a direct comparison, part 1 to part 1, there's only one part 1 EZA, and then last year there was 4 part 1 EZAs, which was the 2 main EZAs with Trunks and Zamasu, and again, they're sub EZA banner units. We do want to keep in mind though that Turles did EZA already in the celebration. So in terms of Extreme Z battles, we are equal to what was happening during the worldwide celebration last year. We got the same amount of Extreme Z battles. 2 new Extreme Z battles are added. I would say missing the EZA, sub EZA specifically, definitely hurts. There's no reason for them not to give the STR Trunks a sub EZA. I think that was a very bad decision on their end to not give him his Extreme Z Awakening. It makes no sense unless maybe they're saving like to make some Extreme Z area or not Extreme Z area, hopefully not, to make some Extreme Z battle in part 2 with like all the banner units, in which case that would actually be a net positive rather than him just being a
Yeah.
sub EZA. It's like him, the physical Super Saiyan 1 Gohan, and then I'm trying to think of any other characters that could like sub easy at the top of my head and be like in Extreme Z area.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if we look at movie
Well,
bosses or movie heroes, right?
that's the funny thing is we were talking about that exact thing on like the stream that I did this morning, because it's like,
Really?
what if they do it in, yeah, exactly that. Like, what if they did an Extreme Z battle with a bunch of units like they do sometimes? And we did, I went through almost word for word exactly the same as you. It's like they could do the STR Trunks, they could do that physical Gohan, and because then it's like, who else is there from the Broly
I mean,
movies? Like, you got the
being
Tech
fair, they
Krillin,
don't.
but he would probably EZA with the physical Goten and Trunks, like, depending what
I mean,
sort
they
of
could
Bio
just
Broly stuff we
EZA.
get. Like,
Yeah, I think that's perfect. They could just easy him like at the Broly celebration. We know Bio Broly is part of it. My expectation is that Goten and Trunks will EZA in part 3. So yeah, they could just give an Extreme Z battle maybe in part 3, right? Specifically, where it's like in part 3 we have Goten and Trunks EZA. We get the Extreme Z battle for the bounty units that have Tech Krillin, Physical Super Saiyan, and Gohan, and then the Super Saiyan Trunks, right? And those are EZAs for all 3 movies. And that would overall count really well for the celebration. But in terms of how people are feeling right now, I definitely understand it. We do want to keep in mind though that I think that people are like talking about the content, but I would say I actually like the content in terms of the difficult events this year more than last year. That's my personal take. So if we compare the two together, last year we got the Divine Wrath of Mortal Will event up to stage 5, I believe, which is up to the Blue Goku and Blue Vegeta stage. If I'm not mistaken, that's how many stages we got up to part 1. Then we also got the 3 red zone stages, which was the androids. We got first from Cell, and then we got the what's it called? The Rose stage, right? So those are the 3 stages that we got for that red zone. I think, those stages to a lot of people felt harder compared to the stages this year. And I see the point, but I think that people are also downplaying these stages a little. Whilst people are saying, I've seen a lot of people saying and responding to me that those stages were harder compared to the Supreme Battle Spectacle this year. I definitely would say I do agree for the most part. Like they felt more challenging compared to the Supreme Battle Spectacle. But then I would also say the Dragon Ball Z Memorial battles are way more like closer to being interesting and difficult than the Divine Wrath and Mortal Will stages that we've been getting, right? And overall, we also have an extra event with the Double Awakens event where we fight just that legendary Super Saiyan Broly. And if you bring a Super Saiyan Goku in there, that guy hits very hard. Like he can do like 3 mil AoEs. So I feel like when it comes to the content here, I find it overall more interesting in terms of the difficult content that's available. And there's just overall more stages, right? So that's good. What we are missing as well is, of course, the red zone missions. There's last year where we had those red zone missions. We had the legendary GT Goku event and legendary Vegeta event missions, which are just not in here just yet. So I do think there's still more overall content last year if we really put things together side by side. But I do think that the content in this year, just in terms of like how Dokkan like designs these stages nowadays, I personally just feel like they're more engaging and fun, right, compared to what they were last year. because last year a lot of them felt really samey, but at least this year I think the stages feel different enough from each other. And yeah, so it really depends, right? And besides that, it's like there's nothing really new. At least for me, I'm someone that actually, depending on the situation, I could consider new characters as content, right? Especially when it's these Dokkan Fest LRs that have really good leader skills, and even if you do not pull them yourself, it's very easy to make teams for them and run them as a friend lead. Not at their best potential, but I would say that in terms of like talking about the game, in terms of even using the characters as friend leads in the game, if you get them yourself, best case scenario, that to me does count as content, does count as stuff that we're doing in terms of the game, even if it's just communicating about it. Obviously, that's a little like a gray area talking about like, what you could do in the community in terms of content. Doesn't really necessarily count as content, but it's like taking those characters into all the events. I mean, like if you have like, I don't know, maybe even physical God Goku or something like that, or for Broly, you could run like a Rudergarn or some, like maybe Broly is like a little more difficult because these move bosses characters are aged out, but you're still able to find situations where you could use them, and Broly himself would be powerful enough that he could like carry through a majority of events for you. Especially for someone who doesn't care about whether or not you use items, you could like go into every event and still have fun with Broly. So I'm someone who would consider new characters in terms of DFELRs that is going to be everyone in the friends list as content, right? But maybe that's just me. And in that case, like I see DFE Carnival LRs this year feel way better already than Vegito and Zamasu from last year.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Who's frozen? Am I frozen or is Ningen frozen?
Nobody's frozen.
No one is.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe Ningen was just like listening so hard.
He was listening intently.
So intensely.
As I was.
But yeah.
I know someone asked in the chat, is Toon asleep again?
No.
Listen, man. The host is supposed to lead me in. I am patiently waiting. I'm not saying anything. I'm waiting for the
I know, right? Minato
host to do that. I'm not asleep.
Hasn't introduced Toon into the conversation.
Dude, I was literally about to introduce Toon. I was just giving my opinion. We heard Ningen's opinion. We heard my opinion. Let's cheer. Best for last.
Are they really saying that in the chat?
Someone said that.
Listen, it was one time, okay?
Wait,
I have two jobs. I was sleepy. It was late. I had a nice massage, and I was melted like butter, okay? And I fell asleep.
You should guess who it was.
What?
You should guess who it was before we continue. It's somebody you could easily guess, for sure.
Guess who what was?
Who said it in the chat?
Well, I'm reading the chat now.
Oh, great. That takes away the fun. Okay, it's fine. Also, in chat, I never said summons were content.
Yes, he did. Ban him. Kill him.
I said the new characters, depending on the situation. In terms of these characters, and especially last year, they were like super class, extreme class leaders. You could use them as friends very easily. They're everywhere on the friends list. Same with Goku and Broly right now. They're everywhere on the friends list. Like, I know that some of you guys did not pull them and then use them on the friends list as well, regardless, especially for these new missions and these new events, right? So don't you tell me that that's not a thing you could do. I know feeling bad about getting shafted and summoning makes you not want to play the game, but you know for a fact there's thousands of people who still end up using them as friend leads and end up playing the game because of the characters. So, anyways, Toon, what are you thinking about the general thing in terms of like content and how it is feeling this year,
Oh, thank you for leading me in, host. I appreciate that. Since you covered a lot of the main stuff, I don't want to really cover too much of it again. So I'll say the way that I look at it, I think the main reason why the reception is so poor is for two things. One is the process leading up to this. And then the second one is two major components in this celebration so far. So number one, EZAs are like essentially, I don't know if I want to say stand-ins, but they're kind of like competing contemporaries for the newer characters, not necessarily on the same level, but if you are someone who is not lucky enough to pull the new characters, you at least have some sort of a filler character to kind of give you a small taste of what the experience is with some of the new characters. And then, of course, the friend unit you could run. But since we have a fraction of what we had last year at the same time in terms of EZAs, that leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. Also, the quality of the EZA for a lot of people, this Broly ain't it. And so because of that, when you look back to how last year's Transforming Zamasu, Transforming Trunks were received along with their sub-EZA counterparts, that makes for a I mean, you just can't help but compare that, and that kind of also leaves people with a little bitterness there. And then I also consider the challenge event simply one stage versus however many more we got during last year. I think that also might contribute to the unsatisfactory sort of state of this celebration so far, just because while some of those stages are easier, there was more stuff to do. Whether it's easy or not, it was still more stuff to do. So there was more engagement, more reasons to do new things. While we already have a massive backlog of great content, great challenge events, after having done them a certain amount of times, just having something shiny and new to mess around with, I think matters. And then, of course, like I said at the beginning, the process leading up to it, banner, especially on global, banner after banner after banner after banner, getting shafted multiple times, either by not getting lucky on the summons or having to skip several back-to-back summons, and otherwise just generally create some contempt. So in that case, maybe not even 2 easiers or 3 easiers might have saved it. But I just think with that, I don't want to call it bias, because JP players are also, I think, feeling the drag in this celebration. But with all the stuff that Global had in terms of content, the volume of content, jumping from that to this is just a bit jarring. And if they could have put in a little bit more, I think that it would have mitigated that side of things. I'm not saying that they haven't yet, because we're not done with the celebration, but I think that that is also part of why a lot of people are more inclined to say that this celebration is weak. And plus, I mean, y'all have been link leveling, right? Because that's pretty much all I'm doing.
I mean, that is a really good point, actually, because obviously I can't speak on behalf of how global players view things, because I'm a JB player, right? And being fair, a majority of the player base is global players. So that's a good point where you could say 9th anniversary, especially how it wasn't global, also going at the same time as a separate UI Goku anniversary, or UI Goku anniversary, UI Goku celebration. And then you got Topo, then you got Cell Max, and you got all these stages in a very short amount of time. In that one month, you jam-packed with even more, and it was better than what the GP month in February was like. So going from that to then what would still be a normal kind of worldwide celebration as how it usually goes for the most part, right? I know you said that I think there's actually more stages this year overall. The Memorial Battle has 6, the Supreme Battle Spectacle has 3, then there's the 1 Broly stage, and then last year we just had the 5 Divine Wrath and the 3 Red Zone. So it's a little more, but there's a little more content in terms of the stages you can clear this year, but then there's also less missions, right? So I think people see like a direct comparison of the numbers going down, and then they think, oh, they just took stuff away, when it didn't have to necessarily be like that. If anything, they should improve or keep things in terms of each part equal. And I agree with that too, right? I think that overall it's a net loss this year, but I don't think it's like, in people's minds, I understand that, they feel like compared to how global was during July and then comparing to now, it's definitely a stark difference. But I think circumstances like that are letting people believe that it's way worse than it actually is in the actual reality of things. And if we also consider this game, again, as always intended for you to play more casually, and the people in our community like to just get things done. We are like really die-hard lovers of the game. We're people who clear everything instantly. When I'm meant, like, someone's meant to like do two Supreme Battle Spectacle stages one day. They do 2 or 3 of the Dragon Ball Z Memorial stages the other day. The next day they do Battlefield. The day after they clear the Extreme Z battle. Like, they don't do everything just instantly as soon as it comes out. A majority of people, because we're people who stay up until like 1 a.m. in the morning to instantly clear these things and get these things out, especially us content creators, right?
Yeah.
Many people who play the game, again, in this community do so as well. So we just get rid of all the content really quickly regardless. So that's another thing where they designed the game for the majority casual player base, right? Either way, hopefully next week lines up and there's a lot more. I think when part 2 starts, usually like part 1, regardless of any like celebration, is the one that has a couple of dry days after like, especially after the EZA drops. Part 1, there's usually a couple of dry days. Now, during the anniversary, when part 2 started, we had an Extreme Z battle for the Blue Falcon Goku and Evolution Vegeta. That dropped instantly, right? So I'm thinking that we could potentially see the same thing where on the 10th, part 2 will start and EZ drops as soon as part 2 starts. I think that happened again last year with Int Future Gohan. During the Worldwide Celebration last year, didn't Int Future Gohan drop as soon as part 2 began, or am I crazy?
September 8th, yeah. So the 7th was when it started for us on the West Coast. September 8th was the EZA, so might have been just a few hours.
Yeah, so I know that this year the 9th will be when part 2 starts for me and you specifically, but I say the 10th.
Yeah, no, I know.
Most of the
I'm just saying, like, in terms of when it started, I think relative to that, I think it was just a couple hours.
Yeah, so it should be part 2 starts, then like 2 hours later, when the EZ time usually would happen, at least according to how they usually drop them, that's when the EZ will come out. And then I think like on the 13th, 14th will be when the part 2 LRs drop, and then there'll be some stages like kind of sprinkled in through the week. So I think part 2 will be where we actually start seeing a bigger wave of content than part 1. And you know, another thing is, again, I think that the devs themselves view the characters and content as well, even if a lot of people don't agree with that. I think that's how the devs view it as well. But yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, the point is that you use these characters in events, and we already have an established backlog of events. So the newer ones give you a new approach to use the new units, but you still have an established library of events to go through.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's how they consider the application of these characters.
And I think you know, especially like usual, like, you know, like if it's like 2023, I think overall was not handled the greatest, even in terms of events and character designs. But I think this year it's been handled way better in terms of the amount, not only just the amount of events, but the uniqueness of each boss. I think is way different, like boss to boss compared to last year. So at least that's me personally. I'm having more fun going through these events compared to, like, you know, last year. And it just feels like there's much more to do, which is why, especially when I'm saying, you know, even using, like, even if I didn't pull one of the new LRs, I myself would have still ran them as a friend lead and then gone through a couple of different events to actually use them in game. And to me, that's time spent on the game doing stuff. Even though it's not technically like a new event, it's still a new character, and that's content for me to go ahead and play the game, a reason to spend time on the game. Even though it's not technically new content, it's, you know, I think you guys kind of get where I'm coming from, but a lot of people wouldn't consider that the case. But I think that's really all there is to it. I think that they could have implemented more stuff, and hopefully they will in part 2.
I think it really just boils down to the EZA, man, honestly. Like,
I think a lot of people, if Int Broly was like really busted, I don't think we would have had nearly this amount of discussion.
Yeah.
Broly is a divisive EZA, so I think some people have been okay with the celebration as a result, while most are not. But if it was just unanimously good, unquestionably good, and we were on a streak, I think that's also part of it. Like, there was sort of an expectation that came with this EZA, because Extreme Class has been slowly but surely improving. So any step in the opposite direction is going to be a misstep, especially considering the precedents that have been established with, you know, Tanks, these crazy EZAs like the 6th anniversary LRs. Like, there's just so much precedent now that there's no reason to do a quote unquote bad EZA. So I think that, and then again, like I said, just the road leading up to it has created the perfect storm of anger.
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially Dokkan has been doing a lot of W's, so running into a rare L, I think it made people really harsher to those characters.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what happened with Ajo Bardock to a lot of people. We saw, you know, SRC didn't really meet a lot of people's expectations.
Bardock is fine.
A lot of people are very harsh on those characters, right? I mean, myself included, but you know.
Bardock is fine. He's fine.
Do that. I'm not gonna say what I thought.
He's fine. Oh, did you mean? Okay, no, not like that. No, I meant.
I was thinking of the Vector tweet where it's like he showed Raditz doing a 4-mil attack set,
Oh
and he
god,
was
yeah.
like, "He's fine."
I just okay. I'll just say quickly, and this is another thing. Like people look at the landscape of Dokkan and the characters and their functions differently. I personally am okay with Bardock because he is an anti-Frieza unit in the same way that the AGL Trunks and Mai is an anti-Zamasu unit. Like not every character is going to apply to every situation. There will be units that apply to specific conditions.
And there's
Whether
also the fact
yeah,
that
no,
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead, go
I
ahead,
thought
go
you
ahead.
finished. No, I was gonna say because I know you are one of the players, which is why I brought it up earlier. It's like some people just don't care about not using items, and in that case, it's like
Yeah, and that's huge. That's a completely different mindset. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that those people will have more enjoyment in the game, and those people will not care if they have to use Hirudegarn just so they could use their Broly friend as much. Obviously, it sucks if you don't get the new Broly, but like someone who would use a Hirudegarn for character or even like an older movie boss's leader, and they just like spam their items that they could use, it's like they'll get to the events way easier. Like you use 2 pieces through the event, you could run like a 2022 character as a leader, and you're perfectly fine still, right? But yeah, I think we kind of touched base on a majority of things, and we kind of hinted at this character already. So I think it's about time to go into it. I'll let you finish your thought tune, and then
No,
we'll go into
I'm good. You got what I was getting
Oh,
at.
okay, yeah, okay. All right, well, we're gonna hop into Int Broly. Now, this guy is Int, and whenever I see Int Broly, I think of more purple than green. So I actually want Toon. Give us your thoughts on this Int Broly. How are you feeling with the ZZA and everything like that?
They could have done more. I completely recognize that. They could have given him more defense. They could have given him a more consistent set of attacks to stack. But to be honest, I don't mind the character. I'm completely fine with how he is because he is not meant to be a rotation leading unit. He's meant to be a slot 2 or slot 3. And when you're fighting against a Goku, which is 90% of the content in this game, you will get the full effect of his passive, which for me, again, is fine. There is some inherent RNG in his launching of multiple attacks. Maybe he launches 4 supers out of 4. Maybe he launches 5 out of 5. Maybe he launches 1 out of 5. That is the RNG aspect of the character, which some would argue is annoying, and I do understand that. And the defense boosting only being just a regular defense boost, I think is a big misstep because we have learned now that they are willing to give a Broly a massive defensive presence with the new LR Tech Broly. So if he is going to get that treatment, why can't a Saiyan Day character receive that treatment? So that's probably my one gripe with the character. But aside from that, I'm fine with it. I've had a lot of fun with the character. I've been running through. I think I dropped a video today or yesterday where I was just terrorizing the entire Dokkan game with my double Broly rotations. That's all I was doing, and it's been fine. Occasionally, he'll take 300,000 damage from an attack, but we're in a state now where we're rocking 800,000 health. So does that really matter? Not really. And that's without items. So if you bring an item, that's even less. Yeah. I don't mind it. I'm different. Like I'm the one who likes Ain't Goku Black's EZA. You all remember that from last year. I was totally fine with it. I know everybody hated the character. I liked it. I had a lot of fun. It's just a fun character to run. Like he's not going to be invincible God mode turn 1 frame 1. We have enough of those. This guy's going to be a wild card. You should have given him more, but I'll roll with it. It's cool.
And yeah. I think I mean, especially with this character, but like if you're using those items and you just don't care about how the community feels about item runs and things like that,
yeah,
and you're just having fun, like this character is a character I would consider he could be fun, right?
Yeah. I should also say I am a casual player. I don't think people quite understand that. For me, I am a casual player. I don't play this all the time. I'll do it for the content and I'll do it for streams. But aside from that, it'll just link level on, if anything, I'm not playing outside of like videos or streams. I'm really not.
Yeah, that's very fair. And I'm sure a lot, like honestly, probably a majority of people in like the Dokkan sphere, people who play Dokkan have that mindset of you in terms of like maybe obviously not the video part, but like you're just using this character, just in events that you'll find him good in, and you're using him where he's intended to be ran, right? Now, again, if it comes to maybe someone who has an opinion or basis more like me, where I like these characters to be very competitive and I have fun doing these challenge no item runs, then I'm not as much of a fan of this Broly because I feel like he's maybe a little restricted. I think maybe he could build up faster in terms of those challenge runs that I like to do. But I think people need to realize there's two sides, right, to these things, right? Just because no item runs are a major thing, I think, especially recently in the recent years, and that's how a lot of us do end up using kind of like that basis of no items to judge characters. At the same time, you could use the basis of items to judge how you feel about characters. And I think at the end of the day, like, it's a game, who cares? Like, do that. That is an option that's available. I'm not personally going to do that myself, but if I see Toon make a tier list of items at this point, I'm kind of going to be like, sure, that's how you feel. I can understand based off the judgment of you have a least available. This Int Broly could essentially be invincible in many situations, even like without the Goku enemies. You pop a Whis, this Broly's at like nearly 70% damage reduction, and he's not taking damage anyways, even in the hardest parts of the game. So it's fine. Again, talking from my personal challenge run viewpoint, though, I would have liked this Broly to be stronger and more consistent overall. In terms of his design, I think he's, like I said, a little too restricted. I think that if he had 50% defense stacking, that would have helped quite a lot. I'm not sure. There's not really a reason to keep the 20% stacks.
Yeah, that's the one thing I agree with. That should not have stayed the same.
I think 50% stacks would have been better.
Yeah.
Another thing they could have done is they could have done, how you get 26% attacking defense when attacking, and that's it. A lot of people were saying maybe he should have gone a mechanic like physical rose, where each attack he does gives him 26% attacking defense. I think that, would have also, it would have been a thing where he still is pushed to be ran against Goku enemies specifically, but I still think that would have overall made him a more consistent defensive character. At the same time, if you're especially against a Goku, this guy is going to really pop off. But I think those extra multiplicative stats would have helped him a lot in terms of a baseline against maybe just a pure Saiyan enemy, or maybe if we're facing an enemy like Cell Max who doesn't meet his conditions, right?
I feel like that's a concern for the early rounds, because after he gets a couple of turns under his belt, that's not going to be a concern. The 26% gained from attacking is more than enough. It's the issue is the first few turns. That's where his main weakness lies, because once you get him going, he's not going to be a liability.
Now, what I would say is this is where I can bring in a little bit of my JP view here, where I had the Goku and Frieza fight, for instance, and that's like
that's fair. That's fair. I can't attest to that.
Yeah, and in that fight, we have the 17 of Frieza phase, which is type of disadvantage, so I'm not gonna fully count that. But like, even if I do everything right with this Broly, if I can get screwed over by RNG and then Broly's taking 300k per normal, and if he gets hit twice, almost all my health is gone. If he gets hit 3 times, he's done, right? Even if I do everything right in that situation, he's done. And even if he was type neutral, it would still be very difficult for him to not shave away like 60-70% of my HP. This puts me in a really bad spot. That's again talking about my point from a challenge run standpoint. If you're someone who uses items, they'd be like, okay, time to pop my Android A item. I don't know, but yeah, I know me and you have been going back and forth a lot. I know Ningen is actually big Broly fan, if I'm not mistaken. He was anticipating this Broly for a while, so that's why I wanted to have him hear our judgments and then come in and smack us down with the truth of what he thinks, because I think he's very excited for this guy, and I want to hear what his opinions are.
I mean, the thing is, I think his EZA is good. I don't think he's like really good. I don't think he's like one of the top EZAs that we've gotten recently or anything like that, but I kind of agree with Toon to a certain degree with what he was saying. Like, obviously he's an anti-Goku unit, and in the past that would have been an issue, but we're now getting a lot more content against superclass enemies, and a lot of that content involves enemies whose name include Goku. And then even without that like extra last part of his passive with the 15% for having a Goku enemy, they did also give him the extra thing, which I think does make a big difference, is his previous passive before he Easy Aid, he only got the extra damage reduction against pure Saiyans or Hybrid Saiyans. But they added
they've
movie
expanded
heroes
that
to
quite a
that
bit.
as well, which means like, apart from some of the Universe Survival Saga ones, it means most of the Blue Zone stages, like he has at least that part of his passive active. And then obviously if there is a Goku as well, then he gets the full thing. But yeah, I mean, like I've tried him out against, obviously for Global it is different because we don't have like the end of the Universe Survival Saga Blue Zone with the Goku and Frieza fight. But like I've tried him out against like Blue Gogeta and Beast from the Anniversary Blue Zone, and he did perfectly fine. Obviously against the Gogeta phase, you are fighting an enemy whose name includes Goku for the first 2 phases, so you can kind of get a few extra attacks in there depending on the rotations and stuff. And yeah, I think it is one of those things that unfortunately his biggest issue pre-Easy A is kind of still the same as it is now, where you can get screwed over by RNG, right? Like I've had a couple of instances where he does a super and then does like 3 additional normals, and obviously that's not what you want. If you're fighting a Goku, you do get a guaranteed additional super, so that does help, especially early on.
And that's where the extra defense potential would have been nice, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of 20%, you know, bumping it up a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, like he does what he's there to do, I guess, right? Which I see him as one of those units that you put him on the team, he does decent damage, he eats basically every normal, at least that we have available on Global, like for the most part, as long as you've gotten enough stacks by the time you get to the end of the event. But then he'll die to a super attack, which, as we've discussed many times in the past, like I don't have a problem with units that die to supers as long as they're doing a bunch of other stuff as well. And you know, if the RNG does go your way, like he definitely can be a super fun unit to use. I tried him out obviously originally against the Goku to see what he would be like at his full potential, and I did manage to get like the God RNG turn where he did 5 super attacks, and it was the turn where I used the active skill. So like all of his super attacks were at or above like 25 million, and he did 5 of them like in that one turn. It's like in that situation, then it's like, okay, like he's super fun, but obviously that's not something that's going to happen all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think his Easy A, like I said, I wouldn't consider it to be like a top tier Easy A, but I definitely think he's being underrated a little bit in the grand scheme of things.
I would say that, yeah. I think that he's not bad, and I personally have never, at least I hope I never said he was actually bad. Besides, like, you know, maybe if he just screwed me over and I'm like, ah, you suck out of anger, right? But I think he's more to me just like I know a lot of people like take like the word mid or mediocre like very harshly, but that's kind of what he is to me, just like a middle of the road kind of Easy A. He could look really good sometimes. Other times he can look underwhelming, but overall I think he evens out, and you know, the overall general performance of what I've seen from him across all the different events I've tried, he's able to get the job done. I just wish with so much of that damage reduction he had though, like he would have been a little tankier, but that's personally me. I think he's overall fine, especially as a slot 2 unit. You don't have to worry about him eating supers as much. If it was like a slot 1 character and dying 2 supers, I think then that would be like a big issue for me. But at that point, if he was slot 1 and you can't eat supers, I would call him garbage.
Well, yeah.
Because he's not doing what I think his purpose would be. But in slot 2, you're not a character that's always going to be intended to have to eat those super attacks, right? And there's also the point where they don't just want to hand everything to us with an Easy A. I would assume so for most Easy As anyways, especially with TUR Easy As. LR Easy As, they've been kind of very nice to a majority of them this year. But yeah, no, I think that this is like what we should anticipate from Easy As, and if they're better, then we're excited. We shouldn't set our expectations too high, because even though while this guy was overall still a passable Easy A by like what we should have our Easy A centers in, like where he's still definitely runnable in the most difficult content, as a 2020 unit being runnable in 2024 content is awesome. there's still the fact that he's not going to be the best ever, and I think that's okay too for how old he is, and that's how we should kind of think about these characters. But yeah,
with characters like the LR Super Saiyans, right? The units with an ability to make the team better. There will be newer characters like that emerge in the future. Extreme class, maybe movie boss specific. There's going to be more characters that are going to be updating and upgrading the movie boss category. By the end of this worldwide celebration, this guy in his limited role will probably be more productive than what he is now, because some people might see that this is one of like the pillar characters that have to be kind of dominating the rotations, but maybe by the end of the celebration he won't be. And so if he is in a much smaller role with lower responsibilities, he might be able to produce at the level that he needs to, or exceed that expectation.
And we never know how events are going to look like by the end of worldwide. We don't know how the part 2 LR, I assume one of the part 2 LRs will probably be Broly again. It could be like a slot 1 standalone legendary Super Saiyan Broly. And then what if he gives damage reduction to the entire rotation? Like, what if he gets like 10% reduction to movie bosses characters or something like that? And then in Broly, like as a floater, he's floating around, and so like against Goku's especially, like him floating around with like 70% reduction basically. Even if he doesn't get as many stacks, he's gonna be in a better spot overall. Like, we don't know how they're going to handle this, especially with how overpowered the Super Saiyan, Goku, Trunks, and Gohan's support is. We see how much of an effect that has. Like, I'm able to run characters like the 2022 AGO Goku and Vegeta without items in the most difficult stages. So like that support is crazy, right?
Dude, imagine Bio Broly shares his goo with the rotation, and they all become those Play-Doh super warriors, and they get like 30% damage reduction.
Okay, man. Yeah. LR Bio Broly confirmed by Toon. Watch out.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
I mean, since we're on the topic about part 2 LRs now, I think we might as well just talk about that, right? You know, part 2 starts next week. I think we've had enough time talking about Int Broly, whether you like him or hate him, let us know. But part 2 LRs should drop next week. Now, according to, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Proton or someone tweeted it, but we see that the banners, like in terms of like, so JP doesn't have these as much anymore, but global, you know, we have like the little home screen banners where you can click on them and then like you could get popped over to like an event information screen. Some of those are ending on the 10th, and then some of those are ending on the 14th, which means that should be when the next 2 waves of content should come out. So we should be anticipating likely a data download on like the 8th, 9th, depending on your time zone, and then probably another one on like the 12th, 13th. The first one should be just for part 2, and then the second one should be the part 2 LR characters. Talking about part 2 content that we could expect, maybe that's a little more difficult to predict. Like, oh, I think we're gonna get this stage in the Supreme Battle Spectacle, right? But I think talking about the actual part 2 LRs will lead to a more interesting discussion, I think, for me, because there's technically 2 movies you can make guesses from. Ningen, if you want, you know, what are you thinking will be the part 2 LRs in terms of this celebration?
I mean, funnily enough,
okay.
Funnily enough, as much as I would hate it to be a thing, I did put up a video earlier, like a little bit before the podcast, talking about the horrifying possibility that it could be Bio Broly. Because
I really
don't say horrifying. Come on,
I hate it.
Have an open mind.
I mean, this is the thing I say in the video, right? Like, at the end of the day, if they do make it in a Dokkan Fest, that's just even part. Like, just even saying that is funny, right? Dokkan Fest LR Bio Broly. But I mean, if they do make that, then obviously, as long as the unit is good, then that I'm fine with it. It's just, you know, it is a big meme. Like, I hate Bio Broly. I think it's one of the worst Z movies, if not the worst Z movie. I would not be excited for a Bio Broly at all. But as long as the unit is good, then
yes,
I would be fine with it. But I think the thing that makes it the biggest issue is that I looked at his the free-to-play Bio Broly that we have, looked at like the very few categories that he's on, and so even if they did make him a Dokkan Fest exclusive LR, like his leader skill would be terrible because he's only on like 4 categories. But yeah, I think it could be Bio Broly, which would be interesting, because then the Part 2 LR, the counterpart to the Part 2 LR, I should say, the Carnival LR, will be probably another Goten and Trunks. Which is just weird that a lot of these characters have odd choices for the side unit, like for the counterpart unit, I should say. Because, like, you don't want them to make it like Goten, Trunks, and Krillin, because then they miss out on a bunch of categories and potentially links. The only thing that I do think is a possibility is the fact that they did kind of go out of their way to mention in Part 1 when they talked about the new Broly, that the reason why he's designed like that is because of they're obviously aware of the issue with like other Super Saiyan Brolys, right, and the naming convention. So they had him start off as base and then transform into Legendary Super Saiyan. So with the fact that they mentioned that and the fact that they're obviously thinking about it now for some of these newer units, I could see the Part 2 superclass unit, whether it's going to be like Goten and Trunks or whether it's going to be Go Bros, and like the extreme unit is going to be like just another Broly again from like movie 10. I could see them doing some sort of different thing where maybe they start off as base and then transform straight away or something like that, so that we don't end up with more of these characters that all share the same names. But because that's the thing, like, whilst I don't think it's impossible, I think it would be weird for them to do Legendary Super Saiyan Broly like twice, like as the Part 1 and the Part 2 unit, which is the reason why I feel like it's more likely, again, as much as I hate to say it, I feel like it's more likely to be Bio Broly than it is to be movie 10 Broly, right? Because then they are just doing Legendary Super Saiyan Broly twice in the same celebration. But I don't know. I think it could be, it's possible either way. They obviously showed us at the very beginning that the theme of the celebration is all three movies, so there's going to be some kind of content from all three of them. But both the other two movies that we haven't touched yet do have like potential easy A's and stuff. So even if it just ends up being an easy A's of characters from that movie, like they're going to cover the three movies eventually. We just don't know necessarily whether that relates to the summonable units or not. Because, of course, the worst case scenario for extreme teams especially is that we get a repeat of last year's worldwide celebration and the Part 2 LRs are both superclass and we get like Go Bros and Goten and Trunks or something. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I have a very strong feeling it could be Bio Broly. So
I got something for you. All right, get this. First of all, if Bio Broly, first of all, I get the animosity towards Bio Broly. It's a bad movie. All right, the villain is weird. The whole thing is weird. I get it. My reasoning, my justification for wanting Bio Broly and Zarbon and all of these randoms is that I want every single character to get their comeuppance. I want every single character to be properly represented in Dokkan. That being said, if this Bio Broly, if it actually happens, and if he sucks, I will be the first to hate on the Bio Broly. All right, I'll just say that right there. Okay. Now, that being said, I think we are going to see a Bio Broly and a family Kamehameha. I think we're going to get a combination of movie 2 and 3 for Broly, because we already have the second coming Broly getting what should be his easy A during the celebration. We need more extreme class characters. Bio Broly with his goo, respect the goo, damn it. That goo is going to make his teammates better, and we are going to see a solid extreme support here. All right, I'm coping a little bit, I am aware, but I think that's the best way to represent and cover the rest of the Broly movies. Having a solid Dokkan Festival villain, Goo Broly, and then you can have the carnival be, if you want to get, if you want to get creative with it, what if we had a Goten LR, hear me out, that can use animations from Bio Broly with Trunks on the rotation, or can use Family Kamehameha from the Second Coming movie with Gohan or Goku on the rotation. Or maybe you save the Goku for an active skill or something. Or maybe you do a what-if scenario or an original where you have like a, the Power Rangers Megazord Kamehameha with all four of them. Goten, Trunks, Gohan, and Goku. They could get weird with it, but I think I'd be down for it. Do something like that for this like culmination of all the different Broly movies, all the different elements combining into one. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think like
cool.
Okay, so I was gonna make a joke about you saying, "Oh yeah, we want Bio Broly to goon over our characters," but
I did not say goon. I did not say goon.
No. The goo, I get it. The goo.
Respect the goo.
I have not watched the movie since I was like 12.
Same.
So I don't know what happened.
Same,
Probably.
actually, same.
This guy. Oh my god! Shut up. No, but I think that like that card about like depending on the rotation, you could get either one of the movies. That could be interesting. What I do want to point out is that in the database, we do have two mechanics that haven't been used.
Tell them.
There is the Dragon Ball mechanic that's in the database. Because of that, I'm thinking one of the Part 2 LRs is definitely the Family Kamehameha moment where the Dragon Balls are activated and then Goku comes in for some reason.
Rising Rush, Family Kamehameha.
Yeah, something like that, right? Where you collect the Dragon Balls. Hopefully, it's something more than just specific to that character, though. But if it was going to be specifically tied to a character or like introduced somehow, I think the Family Kamehameha would be a decent way to bring it in. Honestly, it should have been introduced when Bulma came out last year, but hey, we move,
True.
Now,
yeah.
I think the other Part 2 LR, here's my idea. I think probably will be movie 10 Broly, because I think the movie LR or the movie 10 like tech LR that came out a while ago, his animations are still pretty good.
Wait, movie 10, that's Second Coming, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Second Coming one. His animations are pretty good, but I still think they could be a lot better, actually. And there's a lot of animations that I feel like we got from this Part 1 Broly that like hadn't really like. I think there's some stuff missing from him, and maybe it's on purpose so that they can give some of them to this new Broly potentially, right? I think that'd be interesting if that's kind of their thought process there. They have like this new Broly have some like movie 8 references, which is the first Broly movie. And I think just getting a new legendary Super Saiyan Broly would be fine with me. At the same time, though, I kind of would like a Bio Broly because it's more likely that obviously we're gonna get like easy A's for maybe Super Easy for the STR Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. We got the Easy A for Int Broly, and that's like kind of potentially 2 Legendary Super Saiyan Brolys. So having another one would mean that potentially you have 4 running around on the team if you have like the 2 Dokkan Fest LR leaders, and then you have the Int Broly, and then you have the STR Broly, and it's like that's a lot of one character with the same name.
Yeah.
So that's a thing, and then if they make him Super Saiyan Broly, then it's like EGO Broly and Tech LR Broly's EZA kind of gets screwed over. So like it's very touchy. I would say though, if they make it like a slot 1 Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Now we do see that Tech Broly, the one that just came out, he has an ability to still sit in slot 2. He still has a 76% reduction, and he gets the guaranteed additional super. So like if there was a new slot 1 version, I think that could work out fine, right, for the most part, and they would share a lot of links. Maybe Bio Broly ends up being a banner unit, and that realistically, that might be more likely if
That'll be
they
a slap in the face.
give a Dokkan Fest to the movie 10 Broly, because technically movie 10 Broly never has gone to Dokkan Fest. It was only movie 8 Broly that's gone to Dokkan Fest. So the movie 10 one getting one, I guess, would make sense. And then Bio Broly just becomes a banner unit, and banner units, I mean, we see Dispo. Dispo's like Dokkan Fest level. They can make Bio Broly still extremely good as a banner unit. Like we've had good banner units this year. Like again, the Dispo came out. The Piccolo Vegeta seems to be pretty good. So I'm very like, who was the banner that came out with Roshi?
It was a Bulma, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Ijo Bulma. She's pretty good overall. So like, I think it could be fine, right? We'll see. In terms of like, I know a lot of people are saying like a Goten and like, people are bringing up like Goten and Trunks in there and Gohan and Goten, but probably not, because we still need a new leader for that new category in the database. So
yeah,
I would assume there's at least one a Broly new summonable LR.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because funny enough, Bio Broly is on that category, the uncontrollable power. So
yeah.
I actually did see. I've completely forgot about it because I've seen people mention it before, and it would be kind of cool because it's not like a what if, but it's just like connecting the two things. Because obviously, Bio Broly is a direct sequel to movie 10. Like it follows on. It's got some of the same characters in it. Obviously, like not the main characters, of course, like Goku, Goten, and so on. But like, because it's the guy that's like the weird priest from the village in movie 10 is the one who gives the guy like the Broly DNA, right? So it's like a direct sequel from movie 10. So someone was saying movie 10 Broly, who then revives into Bio Broly as the part 2 LR. So it's basically both movies in one unit, because then his revive animation would be like the clone in the test tube and then breaking out and turning into Bio Broly. Like, that'd be kind of funny. If they just did both the movies as the part 2 LR. Like, I feel like that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be funny, yeah. One thing I was thinking about, like, if it is just a movie 10 Broly, though, we see he has the barrier for the when he was rising out from the lava. I'm thinking maybe that could be a target mechanic where he has, I think, well, Cell Max is another target mechanic unit, but imagine like a team where, like, what if they made Cell Max not have his target skill turn 4 in movie bosses, because it's like this Broly with the barrier and the lava is like a turn 3 target skill character, just like how Gogeta, his target skill, like the Gogeta Blue, his target skill is like kind of like turn 6, turn 7, but then we got Beast Gohan who's able to cover you on earlier in the fight. What if it's something like that, and then like the movie bosses team ends up having 3 target skills you could use throughout the entire fight? I think that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then I honestly, they really, I think what I'm expecting is movie 10 Broly, Bio Broly bounty in it, and then the family Kamehameha. Then in part 3, we'll see the physical Goten and Trunks EZA. But who knows? We'll see. Maybe it's not a 0% chance Bio Broly is part 2 LR. And if you are very excited for that, you probably want to be very good. So congrats,
Yeah. If he's not good, I will rage at the goo.
I mean, yeah, Bio Broly could provide an interesting role. Maybe I'll have to rewatch the movie and see exactly what he does, but I assume he's kind of like able to like regenerate, probably. So maybe he could have a revive.
I mean, he could also
giant form.
have the giant form, yeah, because the red zone stage has that, right?
So there's something I want to bring up to you guys, actually. I think, is there any final guesses for part 2 LRs between you guys, or
I think we've pretty much covered all the possibilities, right? Because the only other thing I was thinking for like the family Kamehameha unit is, I think maybe it's less likely now because of what they did for the part 1 unit. Doesn't mean they can't do it again, but I've always thought like they could just do the unit rather than being Goten and Gohan as just Goku, Goten, and Gohan. But then at the same time, to be fair, like we don't really need to worry about the same name thing for the Go Bros, because it's not like we're using them anymore. Like anyway, like for Broly, it was kind of imported because of the AGL Broly and the Tech Broly EZA potential. But like the Tech Go Bros have already had their EZA and are not really being used anymore. So if we got a new unit for part 2 that had the same name as them, I feel like it probably wouldn't matter that much, to be honest.
Maybe that's why they EZA'd them last year instead of this year for the celebration, because they're like, oh well, we're gonna have the same name, so let's make them usable the year before, so that they don't get instantly overshadowed. Who knows?
Could be.
Oh yeah, but by the way, there's a new bug. Are you guys aware of that? There's a new bug where you could use 2 standbys at the same time.
Hey, what?
Wait, I've done that recently. I thought that maybe I didn't know anything. I just didn't know Dokkan.
Did you have Orange Piccolo on your team?
I don't remember.
Okay, so
but I'm pretty sure I've used multiple standbys. Like I think I used the Super Saiyan trio, and then was it Spirit Bomb? I think I had the option to, but I didn't.
So how it works is, let's say you need to use a finish skill and a standby skill in the same turn. So like, let's say I have Super Saiyan 4 Goku on the team, and then I transform from the Oob into full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. On that same rotation, then I go into the standby from the Super Saiyan and Goku, Trunks, and Gohan into just the Super Saiyan Goku. Why use a finish skill and then a standby skill? Then I collect orbs with those 2 characters. Then I go into giant form with Orange Piccolo. I exit the giant form. We complete that turn. The next turn, you're able to use the standby skill with the other Super Saiyan trio on the next rotation. This could work with, I assume, any standby character. So maybe you could do it with both Super Saiyan 4 Gokus. Like if you're running double Super Saiyan 4 Gokus, you could potentially get them both out and have double Oob. I think you could do double Spirit Bomb, like double Spirit Bomb duos, and you're able to use both finish skills. But yeah, I think that's just something interesting I wanted to point out. That it's kind of because of Orange Piccolo again. Orange Piccolo is kind of just breaking the game with his giant form over and over. Yeah, someone in chat said that's crazy because technically that's how it should be. And yeah, that's true. Also, you could use a Super Saiyan Trio and dual standby at the same time. That makes sense probably because it might be
It's because
like
they're
a
different
different
kinds of
standby.
standby. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
use the GT Duo one because they just transform into Vegeta, right, and then get a revival. But you can't use the ones that are like they go into the standby and then have the charge like counters, right? Like
yeah.
you can go
Like you could
into
use
I think is it Dragon Fist Goku standby and then somebody else's as well because they're not the same thing technically, but
yeah, it's like some
um,
collect orbs, some are receiving attacks. I assume
yeah.
that's because Super Saiyan Goku, like he receives the most charges from receiving attacks. So you're probably able to use both of them at the same time. But in this situation, I would say would use both Super Saiyan trios standbys at the same time, back-to-back turns before using the finish skill. So I think that's interesting. I just wanted to point it out that there's a bug out there. Maybe it'll get patched, maybe it won't. Who knows? It's a very specific scenario, but that could allow your team to get a lot better, and you would need to set it up as well. It's probably easier just to go through and not use Orange Piccolo and just run like another like top 10 character or something. But if you want to have fun and do a silly thing, you could do that. So there you go. Besides that,
the thing is, I was
what?
going to say as well is you think about like if Bio Broly is the part 2, the fact that he could have a giant form, and so obviously since we've mentioned him already, like Piccolo just goes to show with how long he was relevant in the meta. Like if this Bio Broly, if it is Bio Broly, and he has an active skill where the giant form that's activated by an active skill, then yeah, as long as the unit is good, he's going to be the extreme version of that Orange Piccolo, where you can use that giant form to good effect in the later part of tougher events to like cancel out super attacks and stuff. So that has
Or
the potential
AoEs
to be
even, too,
yeah, it
right?
has the potential to be very, very useful.
For sure, right? So that's a really good thing if we get like a Bob Broly with the active skill. Honestly, I feel like he doesn't even need to be an LR for that. Again, like if it's a ban unit that has the giant form active skill, he could still be as relevant as Orange Piccolo is for villains for a very long time, as long as they like if they focus on like he's like a floating giant form character that provides support with like a ton of damage reduction, and then in certain situations he has like against like pure hybrid Saiyan or movie heroes, he has like 300% attack when supering or something, and it's like in those bosses he does tons of crazy damage. I'd be fine with that, and like the giant form again, I would view him more as a utility defensive character that I would use to get rid of these boss super attacks. So I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, eventually he would get a Dokkan Fest or even a DFLR, because I think he should probably he does deserve to get a Dokkan event, right? But they might do him here. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that's pretty much all there is again when it comes to part 2 LRs and just that little bug I wanted to point out. I think from here, the only thing really to talk about next is the trash takes. I'm not forgetting anything, right? I mean, we got the new stages. A lot of people aren't really interested in them. I think they're fine, but really, I think it's going to be part 2 onwards where I'm really interested in discussing.
I enjoyed stage 3, trying to beat Exploding Rage without the new characters.
That sounds fun, right? Using like Path Park and Goku and characters like that, right? Could be really interesting.
I just beat it with Extreme Future Class. What was it?
Oh, like Zamasu.
Why am I having a horrible? Yeah, Zamasu, like Extreme Future Saga. That's what it was.
Yeah,
that's cool. I think that sounds like
a lot of fun,
right? Zamasu's aged pretty decently well, to be honest.
But the thing about the events I thought was very weird is the movie edition of the the memorable battles thing. There was like an event that came out during the anniversary. I thought it was very surprising that they made all of those fights like one phase and not particularly difficult. Whereas like you had like the Gammas one from the anniversary that was like 5 phases, like almost like a proper red zone stage. So I thought it was kind of strange that they that event sort of came back again for this celebration, but was considerably easier. But obviously,
I mean, we'll see what happens in part 2. right? The part 1 stages when they came out were like the Gogeta fight might have been like the most difficult fight in the game. So I definitely get that, right? In terms of like being a direct comparison.
And you think about
But
the
they probably don't want to make them.
I was gonna say, you think about
Go
the
on.
Blue Zone that we got as well, like the movie edition of like the new Blue Zone. When we're comparing it to previous worldwide celebrations, like you think about that event being the equivalent of us getting the Dismal Future Red Zone, and like stage 1 was the androids, which was quite easy. But like on that day when that first came out, I remember seeing people going crazy over like how difficult First Form Cell was, like on that day 1, before people realized like just how strong he was. Whereas obviously the first few
Yeah.
stages of the Blue Zone, I thought were all like very, very easy, like to start with. So I think there's definitely a shift. I
One
don't know
other
if
thing I
that's
want to point out.
I don't know if that's because like the units are just stronger this year, maybe.
I was gonna say that actually.
Yeah, because I mean, I tried
Um,
not to use like the absolute best teams to do all of those new events, like because I mean, like the Goku one, the Kid Goku one was so easy. I did it with a Dragon Ball Saga team, but
yeah, that one doesn't seem too bad.
yeah, obviously the new units just absolutely destroy like everything, which is great. But
What I would say is that it's kind of a thing where I feel like bring the strongest team in the game at the nuclear event. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, right? I would hope that's the case.
yeah,
It's kind of like when people run superhero and everything, and they're like, "Oh, the game's so easy." Uh, and I guess sure, but like I wouldn't really agree with that necessarily. But I would say the fights this year feel more fun to me overall than last year, though. Just because I think again the fights are more unique. I think there's a lot more enemy mechanics now. Um, though I am disappointed that they're all just one phase fights. I think they could
yeah,
have maybe made some of them like 1 or 2 phase. Hopefully, in part 2, that's a little different. I would assume again we're gonna get stages of part 2 for the part 2 characters that make quite a bit of sense to me. Uh, but yeah, at the same time, it allowed me to use other teams I hadn't used in a while. Like I used Final Form, or no, not Final Form Frieza's First Form Frieza's team, right? In one of the stages with Turles on there, and then I got his active skill, and I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool, right? I
yeah,
think it was the cooler fight that I used him in there. So at the same time, there is merit if you're just not running through it with the same like superheroes team over and over again. Like you could use other teams. So there's always an upside to things at the end of the day when it comes to that. But no, yeah, I do hope that the part 2 fights are a little more difficult for sure. Because in terms of the direct difficulty, I don't know. It's like you could say it's because the stages aren't as hard, but the designs of the units this year are way better than last year. I feel like so. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I think from here,
oh yeah,
kind of covered
100%.
everything. Yeah, more of a slower week, so I think it's about time to hop into our only.
Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Black-
sorry. Yeah, trash takes.
Yeah, trash take. There you go. Dude, we're gonna have you read the trash take this week because
No, I can't read.
Yep. You seem very excited. Our awesome, amazing, best part of the show, the trash take segment, your favorite in chat. So
But yeah, it's funny because
Megan heard
they're
it.
it's 2 different tweets. I've put them both in there because when I was reading down the list of replies, they were literally one after the other, but they're both about the same thing. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to just put both of them on there. But the take is about Cell Max in general. I have put the wrong image on here. Hey, look, everyone! It's the thumbnail for the episode. There we go.
Is it just the same one you already posted in chat?
Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll read it.
Go for it.
All right. I'm going to read both, right?
Yep.
Okay. Jordan W20 says, Cell Max is not better than AGL UI, Tech UI, or Int Vegeta and falls in at about 7 on a tier list of LRs. Zach says, Cell Max is overrated at the moment. He's still extremely good and top 5 and 6, but him being team locked and reliant on his intro hurts him. With Tech Broly, who holds down slot 1, holds down slot 1 all fight, his value has dropped. AGL UI is more consistent and what? Splazable.
I think it's supposed to
on
be
teams?
splashable. Yeah, the H is missing. Okay.
It's plausible.
Even Royal Blue Vegeta is arguably better.
Well, Ningen will put the poll in chat. Are we gonna do one at a time, Ningen? Because these are two separate ones.
I mean,
I guess we'll do...
yeah, I guess the overall trash take, I guess, is that Cell Max is overrated, because I think most people consider him to be above the units mentioned, at least in the first tweet, and then like AGOUI and Int Evolution are mentioned in the second one as well. So I guess the overall take is that Cell Max is like overrated.
I think that the poll in chat should be, is Cell Max overrated? And then it'd be like, yes, good take, no trash take.
So I'll just put, what I'll do is I'll put the poll as Cell Max is overrated, and then W take or L take.
So I want to hear from Toon, actually. I know you just read them out, and you just gave us your lovely speaking voice. I want to hear it more, and I am, because you have a different view compared to, I think, more so to me and Ningen's view are kind of more in line. So I think it's good to hear what you think, and then we'll kind of jump off that.
I agree with Jordan. I don't think that Cell Max is better than those three characters, primarily because of, well, first of all, Superclass is just a better, it has the better units. The synergy is much better. So in terms of fitting these characters onto other teams, when I look at a character's value, I don't just look at raw numbers or how much damage reduction they have. It's the ability to intermingle with other units on other teams. And I just think that overall, given the state of Superclass versus Extreme Class, I'm just trying to be as simple as I can here. I just think that these three characters, with how well designed they are, they work better on their respective Superclass teams than Cell Max would do in his function on Extreme Class teams. I mean, I think it can be as basic as that. Cell Max is still incredible, but I just think that because of the versatility that these guys bring, they overall, in my opinion, are rated better than Cell Max.
I think that's fair. At the end of the day, it's an opinion. It's like being super specific and super nitty-gritty picky on like a top 10 LR list, especially if it's the same characters. Like if it's like, I have a roster of my top 10, and then you're like, you're the worst Dokkan player. Actually, number 5 should be number 7, and number 8 should be number 2. I'm like, okay, I don't care. I personally would say I like Cell Max better than AGOUI, Tech UN, and Vegeta, because how I feel and how I would rank these characters is in my mind. Sometimes I put them in a top 10 ranking, but recently I've been doing more of like tiers, like Z tier, S tier, A tier, and the kind of restrictions for the tiers is starting off with how exactly strong the character is. A team is important as well, but like the actual genuine overall strength of the character in a vacuum. Then secondary, talk about like, okay, links, teams, are they restricted to a team that can't really be ran? And the thing with Cell Max is Super Bosses is like a top 5 team in the game. Movie Bosses, I think very soon is going to be a top team in the game as well. So he's on 2. I would still say Movie Bosses is pretty good right now. He's on 2 really good teams, and he has huge influence there. Some of these setups, he could just have a turn 4 target skill where he's invincible. And I think having the choice to do that, like choose when you do those, is really good. I just think the amount of like he has to do like the most damage in the game, possibly, like Cell Max, when he's especially built up. It's crazy. He could slot 1 for you if you need him to. Great link set. I just think overall, like, you could say that, I think AGOUI is a little better because I like, the consistency with his dodging. In my experience, I like Blue Lucian Vegeta better because I don't have to pick and choose. Like the revive activates when I need it, and I don't have to choose that. It can happen in a sense, right? And maybe like you choose not to use Cell Max's target skill a turn, then the wrong unit gets supered, and then you die. Whereas with Blue Vegeta, it's like I kind of don't have to choose that, it activates, right? I don't know, maybe you could make a point like that. Maybe you could say Tech UI, I find him transforming very easy, and in my opinion, post-transform Tech locked to a mediocre bad team would be awful. But he's locked to some of the most buff teams in the game this year that are really good and very easily clear all the most difficult content. So I don't really see the point. And you bring up his slot 1 value being brought down. there could be rotations where you don't have Tech Broly. Like you could have double Tech Broly in your first rotation, double Tech Broly in your second rotation. And then it's like Cell Max could be there in the other one and help you in slot 1. So his slot 1 viability could still be useful. Furthermore, I think the biggest viability tool for him is the target skill, which no character like there's still only 3 characters with target skills, right? Beast Gohan, Blue Gogeta, and then Cell Max. I don't believe I'm missing anyone. That is a majority of his value.
Isn't free to play Beerus?
That is okay, yeah, him. But on I guess that is on super bosses, right? But like I would rather run Cell Max, for instance, right? Especially because that team has a lot of options already, at least for me personally, with how I would run the team. Even if we get another target skill mechanic either, though, it's not like something like Tech UI where if we get another like just better domain character for his teams, then it's like he's kind of locked out, right? With target skills, you're not locked out of that. You could use multiple of them in the same fight. So even if we get another character on Voodoo bosses that has a target skill, you could still easily take advantage with some access target skill. And yeah, I see the point in being splashable on teams, but I would say the overall strength of the character, I think, should, with how I rank characters, does come first. Because it's like a character could be more splashable, but they're not impacting the fight as much as someone like Cell Max would. Like, literally AJUI versus Cell Max. I think Cell Max overall throughout the entire fight is impacting more with what he has. Even if he's locked to a specific team, I think the overall power he has will take an advantage over like AJUI being more splashable on some of these different teams potentially. It just depends on how far I think the power difference is, and I think that target skill is really what seals the deal for me. But I don't know. That's my opinion. I think that it's an L take to call Cell Max overrated, especially because it's like you're saying like, oh, he's overrated, but he's still really good. Like, okay, he's overrated because he's top 4 to some people instead of top 10. I think it's kind of a weird statement to make, you know?
I made a LR tier list the other day for Global, and I put Cell Max just above UI Goku and Blue Evolution Vegeta. But then when I was talking about the placements, like in more detail afterwards, I did say, like, I was almost tempted sometimes in thinking about the different factors of how I would put people in each spot, that I could, in some situations, put UI Goku above Cell Max. Because even though I've said in the past, like, I think overall, maybe just because I'm a Vegeta fan and I like some of the other teams, like the Tech Vegeta team, I feel like sometimes I like in Blue Evolution Vegeta more. Maybe just because of like using him on different teams. I think his revive is a bit easier to get rather than being sort of random with it being HP based. But UI Goku, I would argue in some situations is definitely better because of the turn 1 guaranteed dodge. And one of the things that I think is quite interesting is we don't really have, like, after the Dismal Future Red Zone, we kind of moved on from that meta where fights were like insanely strong, like turn 1, but we do still have the stage 2 of the Cell Max fight. And I think that's one of the only fights I've got into where you can really see, like, if you put Cell Max in slot 1 against that stage and he takes a super straight away, like, he takes a lot of damage. I think mine is 79%. He took like 400k or something, which is, I think, the most I've ever seen him take, which, of course, like, for him, it's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's, you know, that's actually not that bad considering how hard Cell Max can hit you for in that event. But yeah, it means in shorter, difficult events, and even things like, whilst they don't necessarily matter in terms of difficulty, but things like easy A's and stuff like that, like UI Goku has so much value and so much longevity because he's basically invincible on turn 1, which I think makes a huge difference. Because even Blue Evolution Vegeta, like, and even like, obviously he's not in the same sort of contention, but the Tech Vegeta from Saiyan Day, like, even he has kind of aged a little bit in terms of that Cell Max fight in particular. Because yeah, that Cell Max, like, stage 2, turn 1, if he super attacks like Tech Vegeta or Int Blue Evolution Vegeta, like, they can take a lot of damage, whereas obviously on turn 1, UI Goku is guaranteed to take 0 damage. So I think this is interesting because I feel like, and I feel like this is a good thing, right? I talked about this in my tier list video, but I feel like the top 10, especially the top 5, 6, or 7, they're all so close. Like, it's very easy to just move a bunch of them around. Like, I wouldn't move, like, you know, number 7 to number 1, but in most places you could switch a unit with the unit above or below them. And I feel like there are arguments that you can easily make, like, for any of those placements, which I feel overall is a good thing for the game, right? Because we don't want to be in this sort of weird power creep, kind of like with Beast Gohan, right? When he came out for the anniversary and pretty much like gapped every unit in the entire game. Whereas now we have like a top 3 that I think is kind of interchangeable depending on how you choose to rate units, right? I feel like if you think the best unit in the game is either Beast Gohan, the physical trio, or Tech Broly, I feel like there are arguments for all of those units. And so then, yeah, once you start getting down to like 4, 5, and 6, like, as long as you've got units like Cell Max, both the UI Gokus, Blue Evolution Vegeta, as long as those are the characters that are like in the discussion, I feel like it doesn't really matter like exactly which number you put them at. So I do think it's funny, like I say, it's interesting that both of these tweets essentially mentioned the same units, right? Because like this guy's saying that he comes in at about 7, and then the other person, Zach, saying at like maybe 5 or 6, and both of them mention AGL and UI and Blue Evolution Vegeta as well. Tech UI, I kind of agree with what Minato was saying, right? Like, once he transforms, I even put on my tier list, like at the number 1 spot next to Beast, I put the like transformed UI art, right? Because if he was just transformed from turn 1, then he would be absolutely ridiculous. But it's the base form. Like, I think his base form, whilst he's still good, I don't want to say, but his base form is not as good as like AGL UI or Int Broly Evolution or anything like that. And obviously you have to use those until turn 5. So,
dude. no, Ningen.
Ningen, we lost you for a second there, buddy.
And then it was like a good like 5-10 seconds, and we're like, uh-oh. And then we just kept saying uh-oh back to each other. Because he thought you're gone. No, go on now.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure where I would have got cut off, but yeah, I don't know. Whatever I was saying before. The top 7, at least, all very close. So I feel like it is kind of splitting hairs, like Minato said, right? To call a unit overrated because you think they should be number 6 instead of number 4, I think is a bit wild. But yeah,
I think overrated is not the term for it, especially because it's just so close and things are so interchangeable. Because you're still admitting they're almost as good, so I think overrated is kind of a stretch. But you know,
Ease of use. Ease of use is my only measuring stick. If the unit is good and easy to use, then I think a lot of people will like the character. That's it.
If unit
I'm basic.
If unit 10 can go boom, good.
Yep.
Yep. All right, let's see the poll. Drum roll. What's the poll results, Ningen?
I was just letting you live your best life there. But yeah, so unsurprisingly, the chat is overwhelmingly on the side of L take. We have 69% versus 30, because for some reason YouTube doesn't like to round up to 100. But it's basically 70-30, so in favor of the L take, which, yeah, I mean, again, like, we could kind of split hairs with some of these takes sometimes with the specific wording and everything. But yeah, I don't think Cell Max is overrated, especially when, you know, if you take out Tech Broly, he's like the only extreme unit in the top 5 or potentially top 7 or 8, depending on how you want to look at it. So Cell Max and AGL Broly and now Tech Broly have kind of been leading the charge for super class, extreme class characters now. So I think it's I don't think Cell Max is overrated. I think he is very, very good. And I do get kind of like what they're saying about the second post as well, where it's saying that Tech Broly, who holds down slot 1 all fight, which is kind of true, but then it also depends, because like that turn where you lose that extra bit of damage reduction, he can take a bit of damage if he's eating like a slot 1 super. Not necessarily enough to get you killed, but you know, it's he definitely can be. Cell Max having that thing where like he doesn't have the active skill as early if you're running him on a movie boss's team is a little bit disappointing, but other than that, I would say he is insanely good. I still had him, I think it was number 4 So yeah, Cellmax super good. So, but yeah, chat overwhelmingly on the side of the L take. So appreciate everybody who voted in the chat.
There we go.
As we always say, if you're watching the VOD or listening to the Spotify version, do check out the live show if you can. Take part in the poll for the Trash Take segment. We appreciate all you guys who did vote in it. So
100%. And that is the Trash Take segment there again. I just want to repeat, Ningen, thank you again for going ahead and providing us this. And again, we do put out these tweets every week. So if you want to go ahead and potentially be a part of the podcast in this way, then of course, feel free to leave your takes. It doesn't have to be takes that you specifically believe in, but it can be takes that other community members have seen. If that's the case, also make sure you clarify that so we don't blame you if you make the worst take in existence and it's actually it's something if you see a take from someone with 3 followers and then they're like, I think Beast Gohan is overrated or something, I don't know, something crazy, and you have to make sure you clarify it's not yours, or else we will roast you. We will pound on you. We will send. Okay, we're not actually going to send people.
They will. I'm not evil like that. I just sleep on stream apparently.
I'll find your Twitter account and I will put you on blast. Not really. Anyways, at this point, we're going to go ahead and read out all super chats and donations that was left during the stream.
Read it like the TTS. Twitch TTS.
Read it like what?
Like Twitch TTS.
Yeah, you know how the voice, the British voice, the TTS, you got to read it like that.
I don't.
Well, that's just Ningen. That's just Ningen, bro.
That's just Ningen.
That's just Ningen, man.
Damn.
All right.
Roasted. Boom.
I don't know. That was Toon, not me.
You're the one who said that's just Ningen. You started that.
Well, you said just a British accent, and that's what Ningen. Come
TTS
on.
voice. How are you a streamer and you don't know what that is?
I know what it is.
This guy. Cancel him, chat. Just cancel him. Just get him out of here.
You know what? Ningen's gone.
Not him.
Wait.
What do you mean? What did I do?
Cancel Yajirobe.
I knew what it was. Okay, man, let this go. Come on.
All right, so yeah, shout out to everybody who contributed during the episode. We appreciate you guys helping to support the show. We have Raldo gifting a channel membership at the start, so I appreciate you. We have our boy Drace with the $10 super chat. He says, games are synced. Matsu main producer of both versions. Can we just blame him until the end of time? Just like we blame Minato for everything. Lol, JK.
Wait, we do? Is that a meme?
What if Minato and Amatsu are secretly BFFs? So there you go. Now we know.
No, I totally don't have Amatsu in speed dial, and if I see a character I don't like, I have to mess with their EZA.
I actually call him. I talked to him.
Yeah, he saw the blueprints for the absolutely busted best EZA in the game, Int Broly, and then Minato got hold of Amatsu and was like, nah.
Have you not seen Ningen? Have you not seen a couple of times? Not a couple of times. Actually, it's been 4 times. I'll be just got off the phone with Amatsu. Data download was coming in literally 30 seconds later. The data download will drop.
Well, yeah, just because we know that data download.
No, it's not even on the set times. It's the random times.
I haven't seen it, so you know what?
Yeah.
I'll choose to believe you and your lies. Anyways, next.
But yeah, shout out to Drace for that one. So yeah, secret revealed, Amatsu and Minato BFFs. I don't know if this followed that one, but Philip Rodriguez with the $2 super chat says cancelled. So yeah, Minato cancelled, I guess. So could I with the $5 super chat says Sleepy Toon greater than symbol Sleepy Joe. Also heard that subbing increases your banner chances for part 2. True, I heard that somewhere as well. So you know,
yeah, you have to sub to Ningen
if
and
you're
me.
enjoying the podcast, subscribe to all of our channels.
Leo.
Get
And
the
Toon as
Trinity,
well.
Wow.
of good luck. Hey, I said all our channels.
I did.
Minato, see, look again, cancelled. It's 3 or 4
Look,
times.
bro,
over now.
look. Toon, give us subs. I'm just kidding. I don't care. Do what you want, chat. But if you want better luck, you know.
What the hell is up?
I don't know, man. I
like the fact I was going to mention it earlier in this thing and completely forgot the fact that there were some gifted memberships that will get shouted out towards the end. But Toon continues his streak of avoiding gifted memberships on this channel for some reason, despite.
You'll literally I'll never get gifted. It'll never happen.
I know, for some reason. And Toon has apparently received gifted memberships from other channels, so he can receive them.
I have.
For some reason, he cannot receive them on this channel for some reason. Dude has literally been in the chat in streams where multiple gifted memberships have been given out and never got one. So F's in the chat for Toon, I guess.
Bad luck for Toon, unfortunate.
So we had, let's see, we got, that was from Sokodo with the $5, so I appreciate you. Drace with another $2 super chat says, no cap, Kid Trunks in Sparking Zero 2024. So I heard somebody mention that on a stream earlier. I don't know if it's from the demo or from one of the trailers or something.
Is that real though, or is that
Apparently.
Yes, we're getting Gen Z representation. Let's go, chat. I'm just kidding. Like, okay, so Trunks. So, like, you know how Vegeta's like, I'll take you to the amusement park you wanted, and then Trunks is like, let's go, Dad. And the subtitles and what presumably is going to be the English sub, he says, no cap, let's go.
Oh my god.
So we need Go Tensei Skibbity. We need
end this
Go
podcast now.
I know. Renato's just getting cancelled multiple times over.
If Gotenks beats you in a fight, he needs to say you have Elriz.
Oh my god.
Dude, we need.
Where's the mute
Gotenks
option in Discord? For
Super Skibbity Toilet, and then he hits you down on the floor.
Oh, good lord. So yeah, apparently Trunks says no cap in Sparking Zero, which I don't know how I feel about that, in all honesty, but there we go.
I personally think it's great. Hey, people complaining, by the way, Gotenks in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which is like 2006, when he leaves the battlefield and you switch him out, he says peanut butter jelly time, bro.
What?
Let him live. Yeah, he says peanut butter jelly time.
God, that's so weird.
Let him live. Okay.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's kind of funny to think that, like, if the show was dubbed like now and was supposed to be set in a similar sort of modern day time setting, I guess, like, characters would potentially say things like that. But no, I don't like it. So
hey, that's how people talk now. That's how we talk. That's
Good
how I
lord.
talk.
Yeah, I don't know about we, but oh, good lord. But yeah, shout out to Drace for bringing that abomination to our attention. I appreciate you.
Gen Z.
Shout out to JC Gamer for the $5 super chat. He says, Dokkan has this weird fear of stacking defense. For some reason, they view it as the most powerful mechanic when it's not, and they gimp most units with it. I mean, yeah, it's funny that Tech Gohan turned out as good as he did, considering how crazy he was pre-EZA. I think that's the other reason why people were disappointed with Int Broly.
Stacks, bro.
Yeah, it's like people wanted Int Broly to be the extreme Tech Gohan, which, to be honest, there's no reason why he shouldn't have been. Like, dude has basically no restrictions. The number of times he gets like four super turns, that Tech Gohan, and builds up super quickly. Like, there's no reason why Broly, who released, you know, when was Golden Week? Like, Broly came out like 6 months later or something. There's no reason why, like, I would say Tech Gohan is probably better than Broly in certain circumstances. And that shouldn't be the case, right, considering how much later his EZA came out. So that's definitely a little bit disappointing. And yeah, stacking, it's like same with guard, right? It's units with guard always run the risk of whether they're actually going to get underwhelming EZAs or not, because it is such a powerful mechanic. But it is what it is, I guess. Shout out to JC Gamer. We have a super chat from Elfcon for $2 that says, no item runs are toxic for players' enjoyment. I mean, I get to a certain extent, like, I guess it's more so the way the community acts about no item runs sometimes. Because when it comes to player enjoyment, is you should do whatever you want, right? So if you want to use items to beat events, either because they're too hard based on your box or whatever, or you just want to use fun teams with units you like who aren't necessarily like the best units in the game, and so you beat those events by using items, and that's how you have fun with the game, then that's absolutely what you should do, right? And some people like to have fun in the game by doing challenges like no item runs and stuff like that, which again, if that's what you like to do, you should do that. I think the clash comes in is when people will then say, like, say if somebody posts a screenshot on Twitter or something, and they're like, hey, I finally beat like this event with this team, and it's like a team they really like that's not necessarily top tier, but then you can see that like they used an item, and then you get comments being like, oh well, you used an item, so who cares? And it's like, yeah, I think that aspect of it is, I think, where the issue comes into play. But I think when it comes to player enjoyment, it's just up to you to do wherever you feel you have most fun in the game doing. Like, I generally go for no item runs for things most of the time, but like if I'm showcasing a unit and I get into a weird situation where it's like on the off rotation, like I could die, I'll use an item so I can get to the next turn, so I can continue like experimenting with that other unit, and it's not the end of the world, right? So I think Toon has a slot 1 Super Podcast famous quote about items, and what was it again, buddy?
Use an item, dummy.
There you go. So
Yeah.
exactly. Like, there's no point if you're someone who just plays the game for fun and you enjoy playing it with different teams, especially in these events we get with limited attempts per day. Like, don't ever feel like you're not allowed to use an item and then you have to lose and start again, right? Just because other people like to do no item runs, right? It's like, if you want to do them yourself for like a bit of a challenge, then if that's how you have fun with the game, then that's what you should do. If you don't, and you don't care, which is the majority of the players, like I see it in comments all the time, right? The majority of people do not care about like doing no item runs and stuff, right? So yeah, I would say best bet is to not worry about it and just have fun playing the game however you choose to play it. So, but yeah, shout out to ElfCon for that one. We have we have Raldo with another gifted membership, which didn't go to Toon. We have Philip Rodriguez with a $5 super chat. Thoughts on Earthbred Fighters 200% being Videl, Goten, and Trunks, and then exchanges into Gohan?
I feel like categories would suck.
Yeah.
What? We do need a new leader for that.
I mean, the unit could be interesting, but yeah, it'd be what, like Earthbred Fighters movie heroes, and then joint forces. You could probably say all out struggle, I guess, because none of them could do anything to Broly, and it would help them fit with the Part 1 LR. That's probably it, I guess. But yeah, it could be interesting. And then transforms into Gohan, and then I would assume he'd probably have like the family Kamehameha as like a big active skill or something. I mean, it'd be kind of cool, but yeah, categories would be limited. I suppose them being a 200% lead for a category that is very big would actually be... I think that would probably work out okay, right? Because they lead a category that's so big. It's like all the Gokus, Gohans, Gotens, Trunks. So, I mean, I think that team could still then end up looking really good.
I would agree.
So, yeah, that definitely could be an interesting one. What are your thoughts on that unit, Toon? No. Where's it going?
What?
What are your thoughts?
Toon's not paying attention
I
to
know,
chat.
right?
Unbelievable.
This is outrageous.
Bro, I was trying to see if I could go to the bathroom, okay? I'm sorry. Did you not? Okay, a little behind the scenes. I needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't go because I didn't want to bail. And so now, while y'all were doing this, I was just zoning.
I thought you went like an hour ago, man.
No, man, I've been holding it in for y'all. So I was zoning it in. I was just trying to see, okay, you know what? While they're talking, maybe I can get out. And then y'all literally call my name as I put my damn headset down.
Toon said, "Don't call on me early on in the podcast because I'm."
I know, but I was still there. I was trying to be nice.
Like 10 minutes talking.
I'm sorry. What was the question again? Just tell me which character you were saying.
So what were your thoughts on a LR, Part 2 LR, Carnival, Videl, Goten, and Trunks, 200%?
Oh yeah, okay, that is what I heard. Okay, yeah, that would be disastrous in terms of categories. Which, I mean, y'all hate Mr. Goo, so if you're gonna hate on Mr. Goo, then you better hate on that too.
Mr. Goo.
Yeah, Bio Broly.
I'm gonna call Bio Broly Mr. Goo now.
All right, so this is an interesting one we have. So shout out to Philip for that one. Weeb Class.
Okay, I'm actually gonna go to the bathroom.
Oh, you'll like this one though, Toon.
Dude, why did you do that to him?
What is it?
Weaver Class $10 super chat. Do you think we could see a what if card or super attack this celebration? In my perfect world, we would get a what if legendary Super Saiyan Broly that transforms into Super Saiyan 3 Broly as the part.
I was actually gonna bring that up. Yes, yes, that would be awesome. Yes, because last year for Worldwide they did what if animations, original stuff. So give us some of that this time. That would be awesome. That was kind of along the lines of what I was saying with the Goten thing. Like you do a Goten, Trunks, Goku, Gohan, Super Family Kamehameha. They could do something like that too. That'd be awesome. I'd be totally down for that. Okay, but I'm gonna go pee.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what your thoughts.
I think what ifs are just cool in general, and I would love to get what ifs no matter the circumstance. It just feels super fresh. It feels fresh, nice, not to see the same stuff that we always see. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? It's weird that we even got a Super Saiyan 3 Broly in the game as a Dokkan Fest in the first place, like all things considered, right? You know, we got a Vegeta, we got a Bardock. They're all Dokkan Fest exclusives. They don't count as Heroes units because they come from other games originally. So the fact that we even got versions of them in the first place, I think is crazy. But as somebody who loves the Super Saiyan 3 form, it's one of the reasons why I like Heroes, like getting to see a bunch of other characters with Super Saiyan 3. That is something like I don't know I can't explain how insanely hyped I would be if they dropped the animations for the Part 2 LRs and like it is actually like a legendary Super Saiyan Broly that then transforms into Super Saiyan 3. Like that would be absolutely
That'd be
insane.
awesome.
Like I would go crazy. That would be so good. I don't necessarily think it is going to happen or even necessarily think that it's very likely, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's one of those things, whilst the chance is very, very low, I would say it's definitely not impossible because, you know, they've done Super Saiyan 3 Broly before. And I'm trying to remember, in his Dokkan event, does he go Legendary Super Saiyan? Because I don't know. Who knows how long ago it was we played that, right? Because he came out as one of the 120 leads. But in his Dokkan event, is it like base Legendary and then Super Saiyan 3 when you fight him? Because
I'm going to bring it up.
yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Because then, yeah, if it is the case, then that certainly would be very cool. Like, imagine just because we've only seen
I think it does.
the standalone Super Saiyan 3 Broly unit and like his design and everything. Imagine the actual like just the quality, like the animation of him legendary Super Saiyan, but then like powering up and growing like, the Super Saiyan 3 hair and everything. That'd be insane.
Yeah, it's only the final phase that's Super Saiyan 3 because remember there's the Paragus that's immortal.
Oh yeah.
Or it's the Broly that's immortal. I think one of the two is immortal. Then you go physical legendary Super Saiyan, then he goes tech Super Saiyan 3. So it's possible.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love a new Super Saiyan 3 Broly or a Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta or Bardock. Just give me more Super Saiyan 3, so I don't care. But
just make it standalone Super Saiyan 3 and it'd be awesome. But who knows?
That would actually be cool. It would be weird because obviously they said the theme of the celebration is the 3 Broly movies. So it'd be kind of weird for him to just be standalone Super Saiyan 3 Broly. But either way, that would be awesome. So
I agree.
Whilst I think it's very unlikely, I'd be insanely hyped if that was going to happen. So I guess thanks for making me think about it and ultimately be disappointed, Weeble Class. Because it probably won't happen, but it would be awesome.
Yeah.
So shout out to Weeble Class for the $10 super chat. We have Norbert re-upping his membership for 26 months in the Lobster Squad. Appreciate you. Still mad at how Dokkan didn't acknowledge Toriyama's passing in form of a login card like they did with Sandman or anything like that. Yeah, I did see a bunch of people saying that we should have gotten like a Toribot card or something that you just kind of keep in your box as a trophy. I mean, they acknowledged it in the game. I suppose you don't necessarily... I don't feel like they needed to do something like that, but it would have been a cool little token, right, just to have. Although I suppose it's also then kind of weird to think about that those collectible units that they've given out over time, like if you weren't playing the game at the time, you don't have them. So they're very limited. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of a weird thing to make like a limited item, because then it's the only people that have it. It's like, yeah, I was playing Dokkan around the time that this happened, and it's like a tragic event.
Also, it's like,
and that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it hit a lot of people. Like even if like you're inside the industry with them, I'm sure a lot of people like because they waited a long time because they wanted to give his family some time, right?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of weird if they like I guess like hired someone to make an art over that situation, but who knows, you know.
Yeah. I think like it's good they acknowledged it in the game and everything, but yeah, I think it's there are some of those other aspects to think about that make it kind of strange to have that like as a thing that then only some people would have as well. Like it's a bit of a weird one, I don't know. But I mean it's good that they did acknowledge it. But yeah, I'm kind of in a way I'm not surprised they didn't do something like that. But yeah, shout out to Norbert, shout out to Philip Rodriguez for the 5 gifted memberships. And then we have Ultimate Nice Guy with the $2 super chat. He says, my prediction is Bio Broly will revive into Bio Broly. So yeah, that is something that we did mention earlier on. I think that's one of those things. Like, obviously, I think that's more likely than getting a Super Saiyan 3 Broly. I know which one I would prefer, and it's not the Goo Man. But yeah, I think a Broly that revives into Legendary Super Saiyan Broly is a definite possibility. Legendary Super Saiyan Broly that revives into Bio Broly, I should say.
That'd be cool. I'll take that.
Yeah, I think that could certainly be interesting, because then it covers both the movies without us having like a rehash of another movie 10 Broly, especially because we're all hoping that Tech LR Broly gets his Easy A. So, but yeah, would be very cool to see. But I guess we will just have to wait and see, because based on what we were saying earlier about the time for when part 2 is going to start and when the part 2 LRs should come out, I believe when we have next week's episode, will we have seen the details for them at that point? Because the units won't be out yet, right? But
I think we would have seen the details for them. They might be out, or that
probably the night before.
Yeah, I think the details will be out, but I don't think the characters will be in game.
Yeah, so by next week's episode, the units will probably not be in the game yet then, but we should, at that point, know what they do, potentially have seen the animations as well. So obviously we'll be able to talk in more detail next week about what is coming up in part 2. And obviously next week, whilst there has been, since we started the podcast way back, it was a little over a year ago, there has been the odd week or two that we've missed, but the next episode is episode 52, which for obviously a weekly show would be like the birthday show, even though there has been the odd week that we haven't done one. So episode 52 next week, setting up for part 2 of the worldwide celebration. Appreciate all you guys for all the donations and everything. But yeah, that's all the contributions from this week.
Well, thank you everyone for stopping by and supporting. That's all the topics we have for today, but like Ningen said, next week we should hopefully have a lot of extra content to kind of discuss. Toon, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate your time and
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Always nice to have TOONRAMI on the show, that's for sure. But again, we do this all for you guys and the viewers, so thank you guys for stopping by, tuning in. If you watch us later on YouTube, just like the VOD, or if you're on Spotify, our Spotify people, we see you. We know you're there. We'll try to get these episodes out a little sooner. Dokkan is on his little Dokkan break, so that's why there's a little bit of delay there. But anyways, thanks to everyone for tuning in again, and we'll catch you guys in the next Lawan Super Podcast episode.
Peace out.
Bye. Love you.